Hello again, and how are we all? Okay, this time I'm going to be reviewing a video game, which you can tell from the title is Corpse Party. But before I do, I would just like to say a couple things beforehand. Okay, firstly, originally I did a review for this back in 2011 when it came out on the PlayStation Store here in Europe, and recently got the idea into my head to put it to video ever since PewDiePie did his Let's Play of the game itself. Okay, lastly, before I get on to the review itself, I just want to thank a particular YouTuber who has been kind enough to let me use footage from his playthrough exclusively for this review. And sorry if I mispronounced the name. Zarzook06. If you want to check out his channel, I'll leave a link right here. Well, here, actually, so it's out of the way. If you want to check out his channel, if you love retro shooters like Doom, you will love this channel. So if you could check him out, that'd be fantastic. Okay, without any further ado, here's my review on Corpse Party. Okay, when it comes to scaring people with the medium of video games, such titles like Resident Evil, Silent Hill, or Fatal Frame might come to mind. But the majority of these games focus on physical shocks, such as a monster crashing through a window, which the character you're playing as is close to, and this is kind of referred to as Western horror. But when it comes to scaring people, I feel that the Japanese do it right. Whether it be a book, film, or game, some of the most shock-intensive experiences have been such as The Ring, One Missed Call, and they have all been brought to us by their creative minds. The reason why I think it works so well is because Eastern or Japanese horror assaults our psychology by questioning our very sense of reality. But also it uses people's own fears, guilt, beliefs, as well as eerie sound effects, relevant music, and all this to create emotional instability, which ultimately builds tension and furthers the plot. Which brings me to one of the best known offerings from Team Gris Gris, which I have to be honest, no other video game has really done this for me in a long time, and it kind of unnerved me, which is why I love it so much, and that would be Corpse Party. The story of Corpse Party primarily revolves around a group of 7 students at Kitsuragi Academy. As the game begins, they're all in an abandoned classroom after hours, listening to a ghost story as told by Ayumi Shinozaki about a teacher that had fallen down a flight of stairs and died, but also about a troubled past of the school that used to be where Kitsuragi Academy now stands, and had involved several incidents, including the principal killing himself. As the story continues, there is a blackout, and the entire group gets a slight jump scare by their homeroom teacher, Yui Shishido, coming into the room and telling them they're not supposed to be in after hours. It's then revealed that one of the group, Mayu, is leaving the school to transfer due to one of her parents getting a new job. So together the group has a group photo, and they perform a ritual called the Sachiko Ever After Charm, which involves a paper doll and everyone in the room reciting a charm and then ripping the paper doll into separate pieces. However, during this ritual something goes completely wrong, and an earthquake follows, transporting each of them into another dimension where the school Heavenly Hosts Elementary still stands. All of them are separated from each other, so now they are trapped in this place, and they have to not only try to find a way to reunite with each other, but also to survive the horrors waiting for them. First, onto the presentation. The original Corpse Party was released in 1996 for the PC 9801, and the game has seen 2 remakes since that release. While this version of Corpse Party still retains the 16-bit look of the original, this version has new character designs for the dialogue sequences instead of the static avatar images of the original. And this is to show the character's emotional trauma in reaction to what they are going through, and it allows us as the players to share in the experience. While the characters and backgrounds are shown in 2D 16-bit sprite form, which will seem outdated by today's graphical standards, when it was overshadowed by Batman Arkham Asylum and Skyrim at the time of its release, surprisingly enough, the 16-bit sprites actually help the game's atmosphere, and it does an excellent job utilizing both light and shadow effects to set the mood, which is a welcome change as the original game's graphics were far too bright in comparison to the dread tone that the game was trying to create and deliver. It's a nice touch, and as an extra, the more violent endings in this game don't use any graphics at all, but instead the game employs just text and sound to convey the horrific deaths that befall the characters every time you make a mistake. This could range from someone having their eyes gouged out with bloody scissors, or being buried alive, or in the one occasion even engaging in cannibalism. This basically employs this age-old idea that anything that you can imagine is more gruesome than anything that can be put to film or to be shown in a game. Similar to how the shower scene was done in Psycho. Okay, on to the gameplay. The gameplay of Corpse Party is centered on exploration, in which players will need to search each room to find items and then figure out where and how they will need them in order to progress to the next part. This is consistent throughout the game's 5 chapters. Puzzle elements have been thrown in, such as using multiple characters to solve a puzzle together, playing a cat and mouse game with a spirit that wanders the hall, or completing a task within a certain time limit. If you make the wrong decision or fail to complete the task or puzzle, you will have to do the entire sequence again, due to the lack of save points in this game. There are some, but they are very widely spaced from each other, which could be very annoying for most people. However, replaying these moments again is more noticeable, considering that most of the ending sequences last only about a minute. Another element which adds to this game is the student ID cards, which are littered throughout the game's 5 chapters, which can be collected. While these collectibles don't serve much purpose by themselves, they help give us an idea as the players what happened to other victims that have been essentially dragged into this dimension, and what happened to them. This basically adds to the dread and the seemingly hopeless situation that our characters have got themselves into, and it also expands more on the backstory, which is always a good thing. On to the music now. The music in any horror game does play a large role in creating and maintaining the atmosphere, and here in Corpse Party this is no different. Early on the music tends to repeat itself a little bit, but as you progress throughout the game, new tunes add that extra layer and reinforce the circumstances that our characters are placed into. On top of that, there are even moments where no music is used whatsoever, and the game relies solely on sound effects, such as the standard creaking floorboards, chimes, and other such ambient sounds to keep your attention and add to that certain level of terror. On to the voice acting. As much as the graphics and the music help set the tone in this game, nowhere does this excel more than its all-star cast of voice actors, which include Hiro Shinimoto, I think that's pronounced, and Eri Kitamura, who all play their characters really well. Considering that the characters they provide voices for are high schoolers, all of their screams and the horror in their voices add to the intensity.
じゃあ行こう、ナオミ。オッケー。待って。私。
Okay, so here are my final thoughts on Corpse Party. From the outset, Corpse Party seems like your typically Japanese-style game. All of your typical anime stereotypes are all here. The kind but shy male, the short-haired tomboy, the hyper Genki girl, the serious guy with the glasses, the young but strangely beautiful teacher, the younger sister, the list goes on. However, for whatever Corpse Party does right, it does have a few flaws. Due to its visual novel story structure, the game is primarily text-based. Generally, there's only about 3 to 5 minutes between each save point, and when a bad ending takes place, the key issue is that players will have to reload to the last save point, and there's no way to get past the text without mashing the X button like a madman to get back to the point you were before. While technically it's not a game breaker, it's somewhat baffling that this hasn't really been taken care of by Xseed when they worked with Team Gris to modify other parts of the game. While there's other buttons on the PlayStation Vita or the PSP, if you can still download it from the PlayStation Store, that could, skip all the text if that's not your thing. There's also a couple of minor character sprite palette issues when they clash at times. It's only in a few areas, so it's not really that noticeable. Personally, I think this game could have done with a couple of extras. With it being a visual novel style game, a CG mode where you can look at all the illustrations that you see throughout the game, you can view them, as well as a jukebox mode where you could listen to any of the music tracks, which are standards for visual novel games. Another addition that I think could have been great with this game is a mode that allows you to see all the different endings, instead of you going through an entire chapter just to see one outcome. Despite these flaws, Corpse Party is proof that simple visuals together with effective storytelling, haunting music and good voice acting talent can come together to create a truly unique, disturbing, and overall unsettling gaming experience, which most horror games haven't really done in recent years. Corpse Party genuinely makes the player feel what the characters feel, instead of the now overhyped mainstream horror productions like Paranormal Activity, which use cheap scares to try and get a reaction out of the audience. The overall effect that Team Gris and the localization team at Xseed Games were able to create nothing short of breathtaking with Corpse Party. The main story will take you about 6 to 8 hours if you manage to stay alive and avoid all the wrong endings. There's also a mode where you get to play 10 extra chapters when certain endings or chapters are completed. Personally, while you play Corpse Party, it's best you play it using earphones instead of using the built-in speakers of your console. The reason why I'm saying that is because the game's audio was recorded with 2 microphones instead of just 1, which gives it a 3D effect, and it can make for one of the most engrossing and immersive gaming experiences you could get on a portable console. So would I recommend this game to anybody? In short, yes. Corpse Party is easily one of the very few highlights for PSP, or PlayStation Vita, if you will. It's genuinely been a long time since I've played a game which has hit me as emotionally hard as Corpse Party did. By no means is it the most difficult game on the market, and some people will be disappointed by the lack of challenge. It wouldn't be too surprising if too many people would most likely write this off because of its aged look and for it being a Japanese horror game. And the fact that its release date clashed with some of the heavier hitters that 2011 had to offer. But for those people who will try it out, will find their money well spent, which is undoubtedly one of the most fantastic gaming experiences I've ever had. And I hope this paves at the time of this review I said I hope this paves the path for the sequel, The Book of Shadows, which is now on the PlayStation Store, and hopefully the rest of the series will follow. So overall, this is one party you don't want to miss. Please note, however, this is definitely not for everyone. Anyone who's weak of heart, stomach, squeamish, or just can't handle any depiction of death, this title may scar you for life if you're that affected in such a way. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen, my review of Corpse Party. I would just like to say thanks again to Zarzuko6 for providing the footage for this review. Thanks very much, buddy. If you want to check out his channel, I'll leave a link on this page. Well, right here, basically. And also in the description. He's also just started to do a playthrough of the sequel, Corpse Party Book of Shadows, if you want to check out that game as well, which hopefully I'll be reviewing that sometime in the future. Alright, that's everything. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.